man, I saw that these guys were just effortlessly throwing each other in the air and stuff, and I was hooked from day one.
I've driven out here to Chiba to meet a longtime friend. I've known him since 1979, I'd say. Maybe
I think it's in the 80s.
It was in the 80s?
I remember you were doing the CT scan, MRI,
That's right. That was in the 80s.
stuff into
Late 90s,
China.
90s.
Yes,
Right,
that's
right.
right.
But I wasn't going to China then. That's happened later.
Oh, okay.
Because when I first started off, I was actually sending it back to the U.S. Anyway.
Okay.
We
regress.
Yes. Mark Colby, like the cheese, and we're in his home right now up here in Chiba, and it is a beautiful home. You're going to be able to see some of it on the video. I might be running it right now. He took us around around the back side of it, the front, took us to see his tree house that he's been building. It's called Frog's Gate, and he has frogs all over the place, praying mantises all over the place. Squirrel, do you have squirrels up here too?
We do.
Squirrels, raccoons, ducks,
wild boar,
small deer, and he's up here in a place where no one else is. But it's fantastic, it's beautiful. His home is over 4,000 square feet. He has 3 bedrooms.
6.
6 bedrooms.
3 I haven't seen in probably 5 years.
It's beautiful. All beautiful knotty pine. It's made out of, shipped in from where?
New Zealand.
New Zealand?
Yeah.
Shipped in from New Zealand. I'm really pleased to be here, and we're gonna have a nice,
thank you.
We're gonna have a real nice steak lunch. It's gonna be fantastic. Anyway, without any further ado, Mark, thank you so much for inviting me up to your place.
Thank you.
I mean, it's been a long time. I was watching the software you were making a long time ago.
Well, that was a long time ago, yeah.
We were all a lot younger.
Yeah, a lot younger and better looking.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
You don't think you still look good? Man, you still look good. Look at you, got all your hair.
Yeah,
you know how many people are able
turning
to
white
have
though.
their hair? You know what I mean? That happens from good living.
Yeah.
If it turns white, most people here just turns out. It just comes out, boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
Mark, where were you born?
A place called Cheney, Washington, which is out in the Palouse country in Washington State, on eastern Washington, near the Idaho border. And actually, the closest big town is called Spokane. And
Do you have brothers and sisters?
I got 2 brothers. One's still in Washington, probably about an hour and a half from Cheney, and the other one used to be in western Washington, but he just moved to Arizona.
Are you the oldest?
I am. I'm the
You're
oldest.
the oldest.
Yep.
You're number 1.
I'm number
so
1.
That's why you said you have 2 younger brothers, like as if, I was here first.
That's right.
They had to come and catch up.
Yeah.
How many years difference between you and the youngest?
My mom just popped him straight out. I mean, we were like a year and a half apart.
So you guys
boom,
are
boom,
like
boom.
Irish twins,
Yeah. I want to get it over with.
Wow. How are Mom and Dad doing?
They're both gone now, sadly.
sorry to hear that.
Dad just went 2018, but 82.
Okay.
You know, smoked a couple packs of cigarettes his whole life, and when the doctor came in, you know, it was in the U.S., so different doctors had come through and looked at his lungs, and he looked at him and he says, "Well, it's sure a good thing he's not a smoker." And he looked at him like, "What is he talking about?" So yeah, so he had the genes, he could do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a few people like that.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
true.
Yeah.
But he was 82.
82.
82
Yeah.
when he
Just
died.
about 82, yeah.
How long ago did he pass?
About
was he
4
the
years
last?
ago. Yeah.
He was the last. Your mother left first?
That's right, yeah.
Okay.
She was a smoker too.
Was
Lung
she?
cancer got her, so
Okay.
yeah.
And they stayed together the whole time?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. And your brothers, do they have kids too, like yourself?
They do. I got my brother has 2. Both brothers have 2 sons.
Okay.
Yeah.
Both of them have 2 sons.
That's right.
So you're the only one that
Tell you,
produces
you
girls.
look at the Colby clan. We're just this big wave of males.
Right.
And that I have the first time to have some girls come out. So
Okay.
yeah.
So you're a true X-man.
What's
You had that X chromosome.
I guess so.
You're the only one.
I guess
Everybody
so.
else is just Y-men.
Yeah.
Tell me, what kind of kid were you growing up? When you were in elementary school, were you more sports-minded or were you more academic?
I was kind of I actually went to special school for a while.
What's a special school?
For the dumb kids, and that yeah.
What do you mean as a little kid? Wait.
Yes, at grade school.
But wait, what grade were you in when this happened?
Well, I remember in the 5th grade and coming home, and I had my report card, and I was so happy because I got all Fs, but I got 1 D, and I got an A in art. So that was a good report card for me.
You know, that's why I like doing these podcasts, because I find out so many people that have really achieved well. And I thought I was an oddity. And I find out not only do we not do well in school, because the same thing happened to me. I was put in a class with the kids that were really below achievers. And some of them they were really on the spectrum. I mean, where the kids would come to the door of our classroom and make faces, and they would make faces back, thinking, you know, that they didn't realize they were being made fun of.
Right.
I knew they were being made fun of, but they didn't realize it.
Yeah.
That's the kind of class I was.
Well, in the 6th grade, we would go outside, and it gets cold in Spokane. And we go outside, and you know how the swings, and they have the little thing of the hole in the swings where the kids' feet would make a hole, and they'd fill up with mud. Right. And so we would hang upside down and dangle our hair in the mud, and then we'd walk into school, we'd have all this mud hanging on our face, and we thought that was cool. We thought everybody else was weird. And those same guys that I did that with, they're still my friends. And I go back to Spokane every summer for the main reason to visit Blake and Gordon. They're my two nerdy buddies, and we've been friends our whole lives.
But how are they doing?
They're doing good. Yeah.
Okay. Did they do as well as you did financially?
You know, they both did really well. Gordon, I mean, again, none of us, we were horribly academics. Later, very good in sports. Gordon ended up becoming a Pac-10 football player, played for the Oregon Ducks, was one of the best athletes in our high school, and then became a naval aviator, fought in flew airplanes in the Iraq War, the
and
original
he was in
one.
the same low-achieving
Oh,
class
yeah,
that you were in?
Yeah, total nerd. And then he now is a pilot for FedEx. So, yeah.
So you go back to visit them every
summer for over 2 months.
Have either of them been out here to visit?
Gordon's been here. When he's got his FedEx jaunts, he comes out and I pick him up at the airport.
Oh, that's neat.
And then, yeah, and Blake, he's retired now and basically had a great career as an executive in the publishing and informatics industry. So
tell me, what was that like for you in elementary school? Did you realize what was happening, that you were being put in these classes?
We just thought, I mean, I had absolutely no interest in school at all. Zero. I mean, I don't remember ever once bringing a book home to study. I never once did homework.
Now you're talking in elementary school now?
Elementary, probably pretty much through high school.
Okay.
And junior high, they were going to put me in reform school. I was a fighter, and I got in trouble fighting. And after the 3rd or 4th time, I was going to get shipped to a reform school, and I realized that was bad. I do not want to go there, and I begged my parents, and they came back and begged the school. And my mom was a teacher, and my dad was a juvenile parole officer, if you can imagine that. And so I got my last chance, and it really clicked for me. And so that's when I had to learn to read in the 7th grade. I could not get through Green Eggs and Ham in the 6th grade. Barely.
You sound like you. Have you ever heard that song by Roberta Flack? Strumming my heart with your fingers, killing me softly with your song.
Of course, yeah, great song.
You're singing my song.
Is that right?
You're singing my song, Mark. Yeah. My goodness. Yeah. Well, let me ask this: the fight you got in, were you the instigator?
You know, we used to be like. It wasn't like it was spontaneous fights. We'd pick fights in school.
You'd pick them?
After a while, it was kind of a sport, and we'd meet behind the baseball diamond, and we just fight. So we want to fight, and I was doing farm work a lot at that time. I was doing a lot of heavy work, and I got big and I got strong, and I like to fight. I still like to fight. Yeah.
You can't get it out of you, huh?
No. Well, I'm saying I still like to fight. I mean, I know
what you mean. Yeah. I mean, you know you haven't, but you're smart enough to realize your body's not going to do what your mind might want it to do.
Right.
Okay.
And then the biggest thing that happened to me around that time is I got into judo.
This is how old were you when this happened? High school?
When I first started judo, I started about 10 years old.
Okay.
And people don't know, in Spokane, in that area, when they sent Japanese to internment camps in the U.S., Spokane was considered so rural that was kind of a safe zone for them. And so we had a large number of Japanese, Issei, Nisei, Sansei, a little bit at that time, that lived there, and that they started a dojo called Seikikan Dojo. And we had one of my friends at school was doing judo, and so I went down there, I saw it, and man, I saw that these guys were just effortlessly throwing each other in the air and stuff, and I was hooked from day one. And that was probably is the first thing I was ever successful at, and it was absolutely from that point until now has been the most important thing in my life.
So you're Nanda?
What's that? I'm a Yodan, Kodokan Yodan. But I stopped getting rank. Kind of weird. I thought you'd want to always get rank through competition. And typically through about Yodan, you get ranked from helping out, from doing kata, from doing refereeing. I wasn't really into that. And at 37, I got hurt pretty bad.
You didn't want to get your rank through competition, so.
I wanted to get it through competition.
You wanted to?
I didn't want to get it through other meetings, so that's why
but
I basically froze.
After Yondan, they really want you to continue.
I do, and I was in judo, pretty competitively from a practice standpoint until I was 57, and then I got in of all things, a water ski accident, and I was back at home. We were in the Columbia River. And my brother had just bought this new boat with a Corvette engine in it, and my nephews were there with his hot young girlfriends, and they were all water skiing. And I used to be able to water ski, and I thought, why can't I water ski now? And so I'm going to show off and show these young chicks what the old guy could do.
At what age? You were 57?
57, and I hadn't skied in probably 20 years or more. And I said, hit it, and I hit it, and I started to stand up, and I ripped my gracilis muscle. And man, that was bad.
It actually pulled.
It tore. Yeah. And so I have a theory about injuries, is that if you ignore them long enough, one day you wake up and say, that used to hurt. It doesn't hurt anymore. But it didn't work in this case. And so I didn't go to the doctor.
Age was part of it.
Age is a big part. But I don't think this particular injury, I don't think it would have healed even at a younger age.
Anyway, but I'm saying age was a part of your mentality.
Right. But I kind of hung in, and then by the time I did go to the doctor, it was too late. So
it already started trying to heal that way.
Yeah, and that was 57, so I'm 64 now, so that was 7 years ago. And that I just 6 months ago, I got a major surgery. I got a new hip, and man, I should have done it. I lost 5 years of my life in many ways.
5 years because of the injury.
You probably saw me. I was limping around like
right.
I was limping around like Igor from Frankenstein.
Right, exactly. Sure were.
Yeah. So, but now I'm dancing. Just a medical miracle.
Okay, I'm off track a little bit, but I want to get into your hip. What are some of the effects of having a fake hip that you can tell?
I was ready to have a lot of effects, but it's so much better than it was. There's no negatives at all. Okay. And again, I'm only 6 months post-op, and so there's a very good chance that it's going to continue getting better. Now my natural hip is starting to hurt, thinking that he's kind of envious that he's not.
So they put kind of like a ceramic hip?
It's a ceramic ball with titanium rod.
Titanium rod?
Yeah.
Wow.
And if you look at the x-ray, it's the entire hip is there. And the weird thing, too, is there's no nerve innervation. And basically the surgery, they put you on this great big huge table. In Japan, being Japan, you walk from your room down to the surgical place, sit on this cold chair with and wait for it. You're looking at 8 other people waiting in front of
So you had it done here?
I got it done here, yeah. Great move. The Japanese surgeons were wonderful.
They are?
Yeah.
Where would you have it done?
Juntendo.
Juntendo, okay. Did you know the doctor at long time?
I was doing stem cell treatment.
I tried that once.
I did it for 2 years.
Did it work?
Spent a lot of money. It did work until it didn't. And when it didn't, it just basically, I could not walk to the bottom of my driveway.
I did stem cells for my knee. Meniscus was removed.
The knee's supposed to work a lot better than the hip. Didn't go. Yeah.
I think mine, what I really believe, mine was more affected by weight. Your body can only take so much, your frame can only take so much weight, but so many of us ignore it. If I'm over 85 kilos, painful. Yeah. Once I go below that, it acts like nothing's happened.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting? No one thinks
anything
about
the older
their
we
weight.
get, it's so hard to lose weight.
Tell me about
it.
You have to starve yourself a little bit.
I've knocked off almost 8 kilos, so I got about 5 more to go, and I'll be happy.
Get back into schooling. So in high school, you found out your biggest interest was not only martial arts, what else? Art as well.
I was in art all the way through, and then I started actually. I figured out because I was in a rural public school, and I figured out that if I just listened in class, I could pass the tests. And so basically, I remember being very attentive, listening because I wanted to get good grades. And I started getting good grades in high school.
Okay.
Again, relatively uncompetitive environment, I would say.
But were you in any other teams outside of your martial arts?
Wrestling.
Wrestling?
Okay. I wrestled all through college too.
That helped you keep your grades up too, because I'm sure you had to keep at least a C average to stay on the team.
Yeah, I was actually in high school. I was getting A's and B's.
Oh, was that right?
Yeah, but I did. The three things. Number one, I picked easy classes. Number two, I listened. And number three, and if you guys are listening out there, sorry, but I cheated my ass off.
These are your two cameras, so remember
yeah,
that. So
okay.
look at them. Tell them like that, because I'll zoom in on you. So one more time.
No, I cheated my ass off in high school. And I had all these. I remember one time I was sitting at my same desk. I forget which class it was. I think maybe history. And that when he was talking in class, I would do doodles, because artistic, right? I do doodles on my desk. And it would be like, 1776, and I had this whole thing worked out to where only I could interpret what was on this piece of art that I had drawn on my desk. And I was sitting there, and Mr. Knutson, who is still alive, and he came behind me, and all of a sudden I felt this presence when I was doing the test. And in the middle of class with 30 other kids, he put his hands on my shoulder and he says, "Well, Mark, let me see if I can figure this out." And he sat there and uncoded my entire test. So after that, I started being a bit more careful. So
that's so neat.
Yeah.
How old are you now?
64.
64.
Yep.
So you're still a young man.
Oh yeah.
That's good. That's good. You've got a lot of life ahead of you, buddy.
Yeah, I hope so. Well, I wanted to be a veterinarian. I've always really been into animals. I lived in a rural environment, and my family were farmers, and been around livestock and animals. I wanted to be a big animal vet in Montana. That was my aspiration and my goal.
I heard this recently through my assistant. She heard this. She listens to a lot of podcasts. They say if you decide you want to become a veterinarian, those doctors truly want to help someone. The other doctors are doing it for money. The ones that are human beings are doing it for money.
Don't be a Japanese doctor then. It's hard to make money in medicine here.
No.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
That's for sure. So so you wanted to become a veterinarian, and what happened?
My grandfather was a dentist, and he was the family patriarch for sure. And all I knew is he drove a Cadillac. He only worked 3 days a week, and he was highly respected in our community. And that when going through the process, and the other thing that happened is vet school. Turns out vet school was a lot more difficult to get into than dental school, and especially at that time. And that was right when Title IX started, and so all of these programs, that's kind of the initial embers of affirmative action. Like if you were a white guy to try to get into vet school, because vet school was 100% white guys.
Okay.
And so vet school became extremely hard to get into. And so I basically decided to go into dentistry. And I went to dental school at University of Washington. Made it all the way through all of the academic stuff. And I was bad at it, but I was too stubborn to quit. And made it through, and but through a lot of serendipity and happenstance, I did not become a dentist. And so it's probably one of the best things that ever happened in my life is me not becoming a dentist. I would have been miserable.
You think so?
Oh yeah.
So why were you were just doing it because you said stubborn? That's the biggest thing you were stubborn.
Well, my grandfather, he passed away my first year of dental school.
I see.
And so the idea was, again, we were not wealthy people. And again, mostly farmers in my family and stuff. And all I saw was that, and he was over the moon too, is that I was going to be able to take over his practice. And so for me, it was like, right out of dental school, stepping into this really well-established practice, And so there was some method to my madness, you know. But when I got out, so my grandfather passed away, and so I had a couple of years, and I did fine academically, but the manual dexterity stuff, I would just, you know, again, I just had to gut through it. I was just bad at it, and didn't have the aptitude for it. And ended up not becoming a dentist, and ended up getting a job with a company called Abbott Laboratories.
Okay.
And that's how I got into Abbott. And at that time, Abbott was in the diagnostic industry, in vitro diagnostics. And they were doing a dental diagnostics, and I was in the research and development area for this new area, and that they closed that R&D area about 6 months after I started. And that they said, well, you know, we can go over into the actual diagnostic division. And so I started out in basically the people diagnostic area, your total body diagnostics. And I was working in a place in an area called self-performing assays. And right now it's easy stuff. It's the stuff where you put the drop on and it moves up, and you see that they're everywhere. But at that time, it was brand new stuff.
Right.
And then I ended up getting into sales. They said, well, if you could build this stuff, could you sell it? And so I got into sales with Abbott.
How long were you there before you got into sales?
About a year and a half only. Okay. And so I started going out in the field working with customers.
So those are the guys that were really making the money?
Yeah, that's right. And we were making squat and R&D.
You guys had to, yeah. Yours was a straight salary base.
That's right, yeah. Right. And so I got into the sales side, and then in 1988, they said, we got a position opening in Japan, and do you want to go over there? And I said, you know, I was all over that. You know, I said, could do judo. Judo, exactly. And so basically, they sent me over there in '88, and I was the marketing manager for a clinical chemistry analyzer, and that's glucose and creatinine and all those various. At that time, it was one of the first machines that actually could do big panels very, very quickly.
Okay.
And
but your first time here wasn't in '88. It was actually
no, it was '78.
In '78.
Yeah.
But when you came over here with them, it was what?
It was '88 with Abbott. 88. I've been here ever since. Yeah.
But you came here, okay. But you came in '78. But when did you come in '78 for? You missed that part.
What's that? Well, I came for judo.
You came for judo.
Yeah, and that I was on at that time. We had basically a high school national team, and I was on the national team. You know, just kind of a judo guy. You're not supposed to brag, but at that in '79, I was on the U.S. You know, the Olympic training team in Colorado Springs for 6 months. So, I mean, judo was, believe me, I can't emphasize this anymore. In my life, judo was the most important thing to me. Period, full stop.
I hear.
And I was training every single day. A lot of times I'd train 2 or 3 times a day. The only reason I wrestled was to get in shape for judo.
Right.
So I was doing judo, and I'd go straight to a full wrestling practice and eat dinner and go to judo practice, and that's what I was there for a long time.
So when you came over here in '78, you found out that you liked did you like the country when you came here in '78?
Oh yeah. What
was it that made you?
You know, a lot of it. I mean, being an American judoka, coming over to Japan was the Mecca of judo at that time. I mean, it slipped a lot because it hasn't slipped. What's happened is judo has become a very, very popular global sport, and at that time it wasn't.
Right.
And so we were going into these high schools and just getting the shit kicked out of us.
Where's your cauliflower ear?
What's that?
For that, your cauliflower ear. That's a badge for people to do judo.
You know, I worked out with the police here for years, and that they all have cauliflower ears, especially at that time. I worked out with the Kidotai, the riot police here. And what I learned is the cauliflower ear is that they'll give you one if they think you earned it. It's not necessarily, and at one point, they basically started getting me on the mat, and they started rubbing my side of my head, rubbing my ear,
right.
And so I talked to them, and that basically I realized what was going on, and I was basically said, you know, I really, you know, in America, you know, I've got things over there, it's not looked at the same way.
So can you kind of lay it up?
And so I did, I had both my ears drained, and by the way, that's an experience you don't want to have. It was so painful.
I can imagine.
It was so painful. But no, I made it out all these years of
Because
judo without a cauliflower ear.
they get them in, what they do when they do a cauliflower ear, if those of you that may not know, basically you're having all the skin torn off and it gets infected. And through that infection, it starts to grow, skin starts to grow over it. And if you don't have it drained, as Mark did, it will continue to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And then it looks like just a big clump.
Yeah.
And it does affect your hearing too, but they don't think about that.
Yeah.
But
Well,
it's a badge of honor for people in judo.
Well, I've heard of high school kids actually at night. There's this like formula: you rub your ear 1,000 times every night, really hard, and you'll get one. And it was a badge of honor. And I'm not saying that everybody got them that way, but I think a lot of people did. But I made it with that one. So
Right.
yeah.
And still made it to Yodan, which is no joke.
What's that?
Still made it to the 4th degree.
Yeah. But I think
karate.
I went also from 88 to 78 to 88. I came to Japan most summers, all the way through undergraduate and graduate school, because at that time it was really hard to get into Japan. I remember there wasn't a tourist visa. You have to basically.
Right.
I had a cultural visa because of
That's
judo,
Right.
and at that time teaching English was incredibly lucrative. And I'd go out there and have chat with these housewives for lunch, and they'd get me all liquored up, and just sit there and talk to and make like ichimayen an hour. But it was just it was a great gig.
Easily.
And so I was doing judo, and then I was doing the English teaching thing, and it was just a wonderful time. And Japan back then, and I was in the rural part of Japan, in Kochi, in Shikoku.
Okay.
Yeah, and I never saw another foreigner the whole time I was there.
Right.
At that time is
that when you
open sewers.
But that's when you were coming here for judo.
Well, judo and actually afterwards for
when
judo.
you came
that's
with
right.
Abbott, right?
Exactly. Yeah. No, that's Abbott. I was in Tokyo.
Oh, you came in Tokyo. Okay.
Yeah.
So
correct.
did they give you membership of the American club too?
My boss was the president, and he had a membership.
So you
and so at that time, I mean, we'd had no tap-in cards and everything. I basically used it like a member. But I joined the club, I think, in '95. So that was with CGI, with my current company.
With your current company?
Yeah. So
the company that you started?
yeah.
Your own company?
Yep.
So how long did you stay with Abbott in Tokyo?
3 years.
3 years?
And 2.5. And, they basically, I was really happy with Abbott. They were just a wonderful company to work for. I mean, I learned more working for Abbott than for any kind of schooling I ever did. And that we were really at the top of the food chain at that time in terms of the diagnostic industry. We really created the diagnostic industry, really. And I was really fortunate to be there and to be a part of that. But while I was here in Japan, what I didn't realize is that all of a sudden things were kind of slowing down back at the headquarters. And when they were gonna send me back to Chicago, and so I did well here in Japan for those 2.5 years I was here, and they were gonna send me back to Chicago. So I went back to interview, thinking that I was gonna get like some country manager's position somewhere, and I realized they offered me the position of marketing manager for chlamydia.
No,
that was the job. No,